Hi, today we're going to be learning about factorizing algebraic expressions that involve trinomials. The first thing you need to do when you are factorizing a trinomial is make sure that the terms are in the correct order. It needs to be in the form x squared plus bx plus c. In future years, you're also going to have trinomials in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, but for this year, we're just going to be doing x squared plus bx plus c. Once you've got the terms in the correct order, you then need to go and write that expression as a product of two brackets like this. So x squared plus bx plus c is equal to, and then two brackets that are multiplied together. To find out what the terms are going to be in those brackets, the first terms in the brackets need to be factors that multiply together to give the first term in the expression. Now, because we're only working with x squared plus bx plus c, and there's no a in front of the x squared, it'll just be the square root of that first term. When you start working with trinomials that have ax squared, then it's going to be a little bit more tricky. But for now, we're just going to have the square root of the first term. The second terms in the brackets are going to be a little bit more tricky. You need to find a factor pair that will multiply together to give the last term, and also they need to add up to give the coefficient of x, which is the middle term. Okay, then also your signs. If the last term in the expression is positive, then both signs in the brackets are going to be the same, and we use the two numbers that add to give the middle term, and then the signs must match the sign of the middle term. So now let's go and have a look at an example of how this would actually work. So if we've got the expression x squared minus 8x plus 12, if we want to factorize this, the first thing we're going to do is write it as a product of two brackets. So I have bracket multiplied by bracket, like that. Okay, the first term in each bracket is going to be the square root of x squared. Okay, factors that multiply together to give me the first term of my trinomial. Then I need to find out what I'm going to put into the second set of brackets. So now let's go and have a look at factor pairs that will multiply together to give me 12. So first, for the number 12, I can multiply 1 and 12 together, or I can multiply 2 and 6 together, or I can multiply 3 and 4 together. These are my possible factor pairs: 1 and 12, 2 and 6, or 3 and 4. Now I have to choose the correct factor pair that I'm going to use for factorizing this particular trinomial. Okay, so because the last term is positive, it says over here, if the last term in the expression is positive, then both signs in the brackets are going to be the same, and we're going to use the two numbers that add to give the middle term. So I must find the pair of numbers that is going to add to give me the middle term. So if I add 1 and 12, it's going to give me 13. That's not the same as 8. If I add 2 and 6, that gives me 8, which is what I need over here. So I'm going to be using the 2 and the 6. So I'm going to put 2 in one bracket and 6 in the other bracket. Okay. Once I've identified which numbers I'm using, I then need to go and work out what my signs are going to be. So remember we said that if the last term is positive, the two signs are going to be the same. So they're both going to be minuses, or they're both going to be pluses, but we need to know what they're going to be. So now we look over here, it says the sign matches the sign of the middle term. So now I look and see, okay, if this sign over here is negative, then both of these must be minuses. So I'm going to have x minus 6 and x minus 2. And that is what you get when you factorize this trinomial. Okay, now let's have a look at an example where the last term is negative. So if the last term in the expression is negative, then the signs in the two brackets are going to be different. One will be a plus and the other one will be a minus. We're going to use the two numbers that subtract to give the middle term, where if the last term was positive, we add the factors to get the middle term. If the last term is negative, we're going to subtract to give the middle term. And the larger number is going to get the sign of the middle term. Okay, so let's have a look at an example. So here I've got x squared minus 4x minus 12. Okay, so once again, I start off by putting down my two sets of brackets, and I take the square root of the first term, and that goes into the 2 as the first term in each bracket, because that's a factor pair that will multiply together to give x squared. Then I'm going to look at my factor pairs for 12 again. So I've got my options, 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. But now, because this is a minus, I need to find the factor pair that will subtract to give me this number over here. So 1 and 12, if I subtract those, I'll get 11. That's not what I need. 2 and 6, if I subtract those, I will get 4. 6 minus 2 is 4. So I'm using 6 and 2 over here. So I have 6 in the one bracket and 2 in the other bracket. Now, the larger number is going to take the sign of the middle term. Remember, when you have a minus over here, these signs are going to be different. One will be a plus and one will be a minus. So we need to know which one is a plus and which one is a minus. If we put them in the wrong brackets, then we factorized it incorrectly. So we have to make sure that we put the correct sign in the correct bracket. Okay, so I look and see the larger number, so the larger factor that I've got over here, in this case it's the 6, is going to take the sign of the middle term. So the middle term is negative. So the 6 is going to be negative, and the 2, which is the smaller number, is going to be positive. Okay, so that's how we're going to factorize a trinomial. Now let's have a look at a few examples. Here's the first thing we're going to do. We've got x squared plus 5x plus 6. So let's go and have a look at how we would factorize this trinomial. Okay, so first of all, I start off by putting down my two sets of brackets. Okay, it is already in the correct order. X squared plus 5x plus 6 is in the correct order. Okay, so I put down my two sets of brackets. Now I'm going to take the square root of x squared, and that's the first term in each bracket. Okay, now I can do that because it's in the form x squared plus bx plus c, not ax squared plus bx plus c. If it's ax squared, if I've got a number in front of the x squared, I can't just take the square root. It becomes more complicated. But for now, because it's just x squared, I can just use the square root of x squared and get x and x in the two brackets. Now I have to go and work out what's going to be in as the second term in each bracket over here. So now I'm going to look at the factors of 6. So I'll see, okay, 6 is 1 times 6, and 6 is also 2 times 3. I only have those two options as my factor pairs. Okay, so now we need to work out which of those I'm going to be using. This is a plus, which means I'm going to add my factors to get 5, which is the middle term over here. So if I add 1 and 6, I'm not going to get 5. But if I add 2 and 3, I will get 5. So I'm going to be using the 2 and the 3. This is the factor pair I'm using. Okay, so I put 2 in one bracket, and I put 3 in the other bracket. It doesn't matter which one is which, as long as I use a 2 and a 3. Okay, now I need to do my signs. So, because it's a plus, the two signs are going to be the same, okay? And because they're the same, I just need to know what they are, and I don't need to worry about which bracket they go into. So now, what they are comes from the middle term. Because the middle term is positive, they're both going to be pluses. Okay, so that's how we factorize an expression that is a trinomial. A trinomial has 3 terms. It's going to be x squared, something x, and a constant, okay? Make sure it's in the correct order. Then you put your two sets of brackets. You write down the square root of the x squared, or the first term, as the first term in each bracket. Then you find the factor pair, if it's a plus, that you can add to get the middle term. And then, because it's a plus, the two signs are going to be the same as the middle term's sign. Okay, so let's have a look at our next example. In this example, I've got x squared minus 5x plus 6. So it's almost the same as the one we just did. Okay, so over here, I've got x squared minus 5x plus 6. Okay, so let's see how it differs from this one. So we're going to start off exactly the same. I've got my two sets of brackets, x and x as the first terms in the two sets of brackets. This is still positive, which means I'm going to be adding the factors of 6. So I've got 1 times 6 and I've got 2 times 3. I want to add them to get 5, just like I did over there. So this is going to be 2 and 3 because 2 plus 3 gives me 5. So I'm still using 2 here and I'm still using 3. Okay, again, it doesn't matter which bracket I put them into. But now, this is where it's going to be slightly different. Because this was a plus, both of these were positive. Remember, if the last term is positive, the two brackets get the same sign, and they get the same sign as the middle term. But here, again, it's positive, so they're going to get the same sign, but this time the middle term is negative, which means that these are both going to be minus. So I have x minus 2 and x minus 3. So when I've got my last term is positive for both of these, then both of these are going to look the same, except I've got pluses and minuses, but the factors are still going to be the same. But then, because these are different over here, the middle term is positive here and the middle term is negative here, these ones are both going to be pluses and these ones are both going to be minuses. Okay, now let's have a look at our next example. So in this one, I've got x squared plus 5x minus 6. Okay, so let's have a look at how we do this one. So x squared plus 5x minus 6. Okay, so first of all, it looks almost exactly the same as that first example, except that the 6 is now negative, and that's going to make a big difference to what we're actually going to end up doing. So I start off with my two sets of brackets, and I square root the x squared to get x in the two brackets over there. Now I'm going to go and take the factors of 6 again, so I've got 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. But this time I need to subtract the factors to get 5. So I can't use 2 and 3, because if I subtract 2 and 3, I'm not going to get 5, I'm going to get 1. So now I'm going to be using the 1 and the 6, because 6 minus 1 gives me 5. So I'm going to have 1 in one of the brackets and 6 in the other bracket. Again, it doesn't matter which bracket you put them in. Okay, you can have 6 in this one and 1 in that one, it doesn't matter, as long as you give them the correct signs. Okay, so now, because this is a negative, it means that the two signs are going to be different. One is a plus and one is a minus. The bigger number is going to get the sign of the middle term. So 6 is the bigger number, so it gets the sign of the middle term. So it's going to be positive. And then the other number is going to be the opposite sign, so it's minus. So it's going to be x minus 1 and x plus 6. Or you could have done it the other way around, x plus 6 and x minus 1, as long as the 6 is positive and the 1 is negative. Okay, let's have a look at another example. So in this one, it's again almost exactly the same. The only difference is now the 5x is negative. Okay, so let's have a look at this one quickly. So I've got x squared minus 5x minus 6. Okay, so again, I start off by opening my two sets of brackets. I have x as the first term in each one, the same as the other examples that we did. And I'm going to find the factors of 6 again. So I've got 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. Okay, but this time, just like in the last one, it's negative 6. So I'm going to be subtracting the factors to get that middle term. Okay, so I'm going to have 1 and 6, because 6 minus 1 gives me 5. So I'm going to be using those as my second term over here. So I'm going to have 1 and 6. Now, again, because this is negative, the two signs are going to be different. And I need to use the sign of the middle term for the bigger number. So the bigger number is the 6. So it's going to get the negative from this middle term. So it's negative 6. And then this is going to be plus 1 against the opposite sign. Okay, now I'm going to give you a few that you're going to do for yourself. Here's the first question you're going to do. You've got x squared plus 7x plus 10. I'm going to give you 1 minute to factorize this expression. Okay, so let's have a look at how you should have done this question. Right, so first of all, we start off by writing down our two sets of brackets. And we put x in each of them because that's the square root of x squared. Okay, now we're going to go and find the factors of 10 so that we can work out what's going to be the second term in each of these brackets. So I've got over here 1 times 10 and 2 times 5. There are no other factor pairs for 10. Now I have to find out which pair I'm going to be using. So I need to be able to add, because it's a positive, the last term is positive, I need to add the factors to get the middle term. So if I add 1 and 10, I'm not going to get 7. But if I add 2 and 5, I will get 7. Okay? So I'm using 2 and 5 as my factor pair. So 2 goes in the one bracket and 5 goes in the other bracket. Again, it doesn't matter which way around you do it. Okay? Then, because it's positive, the two brackets are going to get the same sign as that middle term. So the middle term is positive, so both brackets are going to get pluses like that. Okay, and that's what we should have got for question A. Right, let's go on to question B. In question B, you've got a squared minus 9a minus 36. Let's give you 1 minute to factorize this one as well. Okay, so let's go through that question. So over here, I've got a squared minus 9a minus 36. I'm going to start off by opening my two sets of brackets. Okay, the square root of a squared is a. That's going to go as the first term in each of the two sets of brackets. Then I'm looking for factors of 36, and I need to be able to get 9. But now this time, because this is a minus, I'm going to be subtracting the factors of 36 to get 9. So first let's see what the factors are. So I've got 1 and 36. Then I've got 2 and 18. Then I've got 3 and 12 and 4 and 9. Okay, so now I want to know which of these I can subtract to get 9. Okay, so 36 minus 1 is obviously not going to give me 9. 18 minus 2 is not going to give me 9. 12 minus 3 does give me 9. So the factor pair that I'm going to be using is the 3 and the 12. Okay, so I've got over here 3 and 12. Okay, so now I'm going to go and figure out what my signs are going to be. Remember, if it's negative, if the last term is negative, then the signs are going to be different. And the bigger number is going to get the sign of the middle term. So the middle term is negative. So the bigger number, which is the 12, gets the minus. And the smaller number gets the plus. So you should have got a plus 3 in your one bracket and a minus 12 in the other bracket. But again, it doesn't matter which order those brackets are, as long as the 3 is positive and the 12 is negative. Okay, let's go on to question C. In question C, you've got a squared minus 8ab minus 48b squared. Now this one looks different, and it might look a bit scary, but don't be scared by it. It's exactly the same thing as what you've been doing before. The only difference is now you've got this b and the b squared. All that means is that your second term in the brackets is going to have a b as well as the number. So you're going to have the number, so you work out the number in the same way as normal, and then you're going to add a b to it as well. Okay, so I'm going to give you 1 minute for this one as well. Okay, so let's go through that question and see what you should have got. Right, so first of all, I start off by opening my brackets, like that. The first term in each bracket is going to be the square root of a squared, so that's a and a. And then, like I said, we're still going to work out the number part of it the same as normal, but because I've got this b squared, I also have to multiply these two terms together to get 48b squared, which means I have to have a b in one and a b in the other, otherwise I can't get that b squared. Okay, so I'm going to put a b over here and a b over there, and then I'm going to just carry on like normal. Okay, so now I need factors of 48. So I've got 1 and 48, 2 and 24, 3 and 16, 4 and 12, 6 and 8. Okay, so those are my factor pairs for 48. So now I need to find the pair that I can subtract, because the last term is negative, to get 8. Okay, so I can't subtract 1 and 48 and get 8. 24 minus 2 is also not 8. 16 minus 3 is not 8. 12 minus 4 is 8. Okay, so this is the factor pair that I'm going to be working with, the 4 and the 12. Okay, so now 4 goes in one. It's just going to go right in front of that b. And 12 goes in the other, also as a coefficient of that b. So now I've got 4b and I've got 12b. And when I multiply those together, I'm going to end up with 48b squared. Okay, so now I need to go and find what my signs are going to be. Remember, because this term is negative, my signs are going to be different. And the bigger number, this one over here, is going to get the sign of the middle term. So this is going to be negative, and this is going to be positive. So that's what you should have got for question C. A plus 4b in one of the sets of brackets, and a minus 12b in the other bracket. Okay, now let's go on to question D. Here you've got s to the power of 6 minus 8s cubed plus 12. I'm going to give you 1 minute for this one as well. Okay, so let's go through that question. Right, so we start off with our brackets as normal. Okay, now just a note over here, you've got s to the power of 6 and s to the power of 3. Now that's obviously not squared and to the power of 1, as we have had with most of our other examples. But as long as this term's exponent is double that term's exponent, it's fine. It still will work as a trinomial. Okay, so over here, when I take the square root of s to the power of 6, is going to be s cubed. Okay, this should always be the same as what you have over there. Okay, and in this one over here, we had the a, which is the same as the first variable over there, and the b, which is the same as the second variable over there. Okay, so these variables in your middle term should be the same as what you've got in your factorized version of the trinomial. Okay, so over here, the s to the power of 3 and s to the power of 3 is the same as that middle term, and the s to the power of 6 is the square of that. Okay, now we're going to go and find the factors of 12. So I've got 1 times 12, and 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. I need to be able to add, because that's a plus over there, the factors to get 8. So I'm looking for a factor pair that will add up to give me 8. 1 plus 12 isn't 8. 2 plus 6 is 8. So this is the factor pair I'm using over here. So I'm going to put a 2 in one bracket and the 6 in the other bracket. Because this is a plus, the signs are going to be the same as each other, and they both are going to be the same as the middle term sign, which is a minus. So it's -2 and -6. So that's what we should have got for question D. Right, let's go on to question E. Here you've got j squared plus 9jk minus 10k squared. I'm going to give you 1 minute for this one as well. Okay, so let's go through that example. So over here, I start off by writing down my 2 sets of brackets again. And I'm going to put the square root of j squared as my first term, and then the square root of k squared over here as well, as at the end of each bracket. Remember, the j must be the same as what I've got over there in my middle term, and the k must be the same as what I've got there in my middle term as well. Okay, now I need factors of 10 that I can subtract, because that's a negative, to give me 9. So obviously 10 and 1 will subtract to give me 9. And I also have 5 and 2 as another pair, but the pair that I'm going to be using is the 10 and the 1. That's what I'm using over there. Okay, so I'm going to have 10k and 1k. Now I don't need to write the 1 because 1k is the same as just k. Then I need to go and put my signs down. So because it's a negative, the signs are going to be different. The bigger one is going to get the sign of the middle term. The middle term is positive, so the bigger one, which is the 10, is going to get plus, and the other one is going to get minus. So you should have got j plus 10k and j minus k in your 2 brackets. Okay, then the last one for today. Here we've got m to the power of 8 minus 14m to the power of 4 plus 49. I'm going to give you 1 minute for this one as well. Okay, so let's go through that question and see what you should have got. Right, so we're going to start off by putting down our brackets. So in the first set of brackets, I'm going to have the square root of m to the power of 8, which is m to the power of 4, which is the same as what I've got in my middle term over here. Then I need to find out what my factors of 49 are. The factors of 49 are 1 and 49 and 7 and 7, okay? Now I need to be able to add the factors to get 14, which means I'm going to be using the 7 and 7 over here. So I have 7 in the one bracket and 7 in the other bracket, and because this is a plus, the two signs are going to be the same as each other, and they must be the same as that middle term. So it's going to be -7 and -7. Now, because these two are the same, these two brackets are the same as each other, I can write this like this: m to the power of 4 minus 7 squared. Okay, and that's what you should have got for that last question, and that is how we factorize expressions involving trinomials. Now that we've learned the concepts in this lesson, it's important to practice, practice, practice. If you haven't already got the worksheet that goes with this video, you can find it by clicking on the link in the description below. The worksheet comes with an extra exercise full of questions for you to work on to master the concepts covered in this lesson. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button so that others can benefit from it too. Also, be sure to subscribe so that you can easily find my other lessons, and hit the bell so that you will get notified about lessons as I upload them.